In pursuit of better living conditions for all, the world commemorates the International Day of the African Child, with the aim of promoting children's rights across all African countries. Observing this day is a constant reminder to governments, NGOs, and other stakeholders of the challenges faced by the African child and the empowerment they should be granted access to. On Panorama today, we'll look at the issues confronting the African child and efforts of governments at all levels to tackle them. Welcome, I'm Ruth Aguilera. President Bola Tinubu has directed security chiefs to implement his earlier directive to bring lasting peace and security to Benue State. A statement by his special advisor on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, says the president's order was renewed in the wake of the latest reprisal attacks that led to the death of many people. On the president's directive, intelligence chiefs, the police and the military have arrived in the state to direct security operations and restore sanity. He has equally charged the governor of Benue State with convening reconciliation meetings and dialogue among the warring parties to end the incessant bloodshed and bring lasting peace between farmers, herders, and communities. The popular Wurukum roundabout leading to the northern and southern parts of Nigeria was on Sunday blocked by youths carrying out a peaceful protest over Saturday's early hours killings by suspected armed bandits in Yelwata community and other areas of Benue State. Recently, the youths are calling for relevant authorities to beef up security to ward off the heinous attacks. Fred Kanyakenga report.
Motorists and commuters traveling to the northern and southern parts of Nigeria were stranded at Wurukun roundabout following the protest by the Benue angry youths over what they described as the persistent killings of Benue people by the armed herders. The leader of the protest, Abrahams Ikwen, described the killings in the state in the last 1 month as a genocide and appealed to President Bola Tinubu and Governor Hyacinth Alia to act quickly so as to avoid breakdown of law and order.
Over time, Benue State has been under siege. Over time, there have been killings of human lives in Benue State.
We want the security of our people to be paramount and priority above everything else.
The Benue State Commissioner of Police, CP Ifeanyi Emenari, sues for calm, saying efforts are on top gear to end the killings.
The governor has already given us all the necessary support, all the logistic, every support we need. And we are not going to disappoint anybody. Just be patient.
As at the time of filing this report, there were heavy security presence in and around Wurukun roundabout to prevent breakdown of law and order. In Makudi, Fred Kakenge, NTA News.
Turning to other issues, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, has charged the Nigerian Army to be steadfast and committed in discharging their duties to the nation. He was speaking during the passing out parade of the new 88 regular recruits intake at the Hama Kim Parade Ground in Zaria, Kaduna State. Lawal Salau Inua reports.
These are the 6,195 new recruits of the Nigerian Army. They undergo 6 months training in various aspects of military drills as part of the commitment of the Nigerian Army towards reinforcing the fight against insurgency, banditry, and other security challenges in the country and beyond. The reviewing officer, Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, charged the new soldiers to exhibit high sense of professionalism while discharging their duties.
We need the training they've got here. They're going to do well in the field. So we're hoping to deploy them as soon as possible, and we expect that with their deployment, we'll have some better secured theaters.
He added that their welfare will continue to remain a top priority in his philosophy of leadership for conducive atmosphere of service to the officers and men of the Nigerian Army. Lieutenant General Oluyede reiterated the commitment of the Nigerian Army towards addressing the challenges of insecurity in all parts of the country. From Zaria, Lawal Sallau Inwa, NTA News.
Today is a global observance, we told you earlier, of the International Day of the African Child, a day to raise awareness on the need to improve the quality of education in African schools and to enhance their quality of life generally. Now, the aim is to ensure that every African child enjoys a decent life. We have in the studio to discuss further on these issues, especially as we narrow down conversation to Nigeria. Let's welcome Beatrice Anachuna. She's a legal practitioner and an advocate for women and children's rights. Thank you very much for joining us, Madam Anachuna.
Thank you very much, Ruth.
Good to have you. It's the Day of the African Child. The Nigerian child is also an African child. But if you want to paint a perspective for the continent and then narrow it down to the Nigerian child, how significant is a day like this for that child?
Oh, it's a very significant day, and it gives us time to look at the issues that are plaguing our children and look forward to propose solutions that can move them closer to a secured future and place them at par with their peers globally. So today, societies, civil societies, schools, families, I dare say, stands to look at these issues and provide solutions that will bring long-term investment into the lives of African children. So, looking at African children globally, particularly bringing it home to Nigeria, we look at issues that are plaguing them. First of all, we see the issue of insecurity. Starting from the recent incident at Yellowater, we can think of the issues that are going to affect the children there. Insecurity is a very deadly menace that is threatening children in Nigeria. Education is stopped, and families displaced, and the mental health of children terribly destabilized. So how can we put an end to this thing, if not putting a global end, or would I say continental edge, to the issue of insecurity? Because once the issue of insecurity is solved, children can go to school without fear, and they can be able to concentrate without any form of mental trauma. I want to believe that for now, schools in Ilewata are closed, and who knows when they will be opened. Now, we're also looking at the case of educational gaps. There are gaps in the educational system. Our children look like they are being trained to be employees without giving them the incentive to become employers themselves. Starting from the early age, we see a whole lot that has to be done. Now we have early year foundation stage, which the government doesn't invest properly into. Can we have proper investment into pre-primary education? Because it's at that stage that you can get the dividend that you need in the primary and secondary stage.
Okay, well, Barrister, if I come in there, because you mentioned a very salient point there. We have, agencies that look into ensuring that provision of the right quality education for children at early age. We're talking UBEC and the likes. It's there. But if we're talking improving on what has been put in place, because there are initiatives, if today is all about protecting the rights of the African child and the attention is on education, there are initiatives that should be improved on. So what are these areas that should be improved on so that every child, no child rather, is left behind?
Thank you. Okay. First of all, let's invest properly into the early years foundation stage. That way, we are able to reap cognitive gains, and we're also able to boost literacy from children at an early age. Secondly, let's also embrace the use of technology in teaching. Not just technology, but also training the human capacity, who are the teachers, to be at par with common trends, global standards of teaching. The pedagogy has to change. It doesn't have to be copying notes on blackboards anymore. Things can be improved. And that is to bring the African child to stand on global stages and do what they know how best to do. They should be secured, nurtured, groomed to stand shoulder to shoulder with their mates internationally. Now, we're also looking at a case of nutrition. How many children eat well before going to school, and how many eat well after school? So this is a case of inflation that we are all going through now. Things have gotten worse, and children cannot even afford to eat because their parents are struggling as well. These initiatives have to be built upon. I know that there are programs about school feeding across the nation, but how well are they enforced? and how well are they put in place so that these children can benefit maximally from it.
Okay, Barrister, okay, the aspect of, you know, ensuring children get to school, you know, creating a room for having access to free education and all of that. Another strategy, you just mentioned it, the National Homegrown School Feeding Program. Well, according to reports, it's been revamped, you know, for it to be implemented again. But that aside, let's look at child labor, because today is all about promoting the needs and the rights of that African child. How well, as a legal practitioner yourself, if you look at the situation and how children are being engaged into labor that they did not bargain for, how can we begin to protect our young ones, to give them a life so they can, you know, achieve their full potential?
I read a script earlier today written by someone on social media that said that Nigerians and child labor are 5 and 6. We undermine the ability of our children and their future. If we begin from the family unit to train them that their dreams are valid and they have better potentials, other than going to become housemaids or going to learn trade or become hawkers in so many indignifying ways, that training, that awareness has to start from the family unit. We need to have more parents that will put their foot down and say, no, I'm not sending my child to go and be a housemaid in someone else's house. Neither am I going to send my child to go and hawk a camel in the morning. We need to equip them with the mindset that they can be more. The schools are there, but the classrooms are empty. What is going on? This awareness has to be infused into the African child to know that they can be more and they can be something that would benefit the world globally. That is my first take on it. And secondly, can we have public pressure on this issue? Can it come to a point where when we see a child on the street during school hours, we call that child to order and say, why are you out of school? The governor of Abia State, His Excellency Alex Oti, was commissioning roads on a school day, and he saw children and he kept asking them, are you in school? Are you in school? Such leadership, such commitment to growth and development of the African child should be imbibed by every Nigerian citizen.
Especially the parents.
Especially the parents, yes. I agree with you totally.
So what should parents' guidance begin to do? Even schools, because even in some of the schools, the child is not safe. We're seeing bullying case and all of that. So how can parents begin to, you know, pay attention to their words and ensure that their children are protected? They tell you they push these children to hawking and other, you know, labor because of poverty. But is that really the case?
No. Okay. One cannot be said to have an excuse for stealing because of hunger. The same way you cannot be said to send your child to hall because you're hungry or because of economic incapacitation. I don't agree with that notion. So what I would project is that we collectively, as policymakers, as NGO owners and founders, as civic societies, as leaders in our different capacities, put an end to it on our own, even before the government makes standard policies on it. Take, for instance, in developed societies like the UK or the US, when a child is out of school for 2-3 days, all the parents are being sent emails. They are being asked about the whereabouts of children, and there are following consequences for the disappearance of the child in the classroom. What about in Nigeria? A child can be out of school for 2 weeks and nobody cares. School owners, principals, teachers, form teachers, do something. If you see a child out of school, or even the ones that are already enrolled in your school, no more in school, put an effort to find out why and bring that child back to where he or she belongs.
Indeed. And if in your final thoughts, I was just pondering when you were saying all of that, because yes, it's a collective responsibility. The parents, you've talked about their role, the schools. What about society as a whole coming together to protect the African child?
Voice populi est suprema. The voice of the people is actually the supreme law. We remember a minute ago when a former governor proposed the notion to marry out underage girls as a way of poverty alleviation and to give them a promising future. We all saw what the public pressure did and the voice of the people said, and that initiative was shelved. If collectively we step out to say no more child labor, no more early marriage, no more whatever issues that plague the African child, like such as female genital mutilation, such issues that plague the African child, if collectively we come together, through committed leadership, through equitable policies, through innovations, we can give the African child that standpoint, that springboard they need to soar. And we all know that Africans, we have a resilient spirit. We can do things which people ordinarily cannot do. So imagine that we are not equipped with the ability, with the training, with the nurturing that we need, and the security which is the primary thing. The security that we give the children to soar. Imagine that it is put in place, wonders will be seen. Great achievements will be done, and of course, it boosts the national economy, and is also putting Nigeria on a golden place on the map. So finally, I want to say to parents, I want to say to thought leaders, I want to say to our leaders, the lawmakers, things have to be put in place for these children. It's not just in mere promises, but in actionable insights, not just saying it, not just gathering on or white paper, but taking actionable steps to make sure that the African child is protected.
All right. Conclude your thoughts. You're done?
Oh,
conclude
no.
your thoughts.
I was about concluding. Okay. Yes, putting things in place to make sure that the African child is nurtured. Illegal things such as early marriage, we know that there is an unholy romance between customary practices and the legislature and the laws that have been put in place. But these laws are there to be enforced. We have human rights activists and the Constitution there to protect the African child. And we have our own very beautiful Child Rights Act. Let's imbibe the law. Let's speak out. Let's protect the African child loudly and boldly to give them the future that they deserve.
All right. You've just hit the nail on the head. Thank you so much, Barrister Anachuna. We'll continue to lend our voices to ensure that the rights of African children, especially the Nigerian child, is well protected. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Let's take a break. We'll be back. Thank you for staying with us. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, has strongly canvassed equitable trade and deeper economic engagement for Nigeria at the coordinators' meeting of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation and the concurrent China-Africa Economic and Trade Expo in China. NTA's diplomatic correspondent, Patricia Esamiluba, reports on how Nigeria is leading critical conversations that could shape the next phase of Africa-China ties.
In the vibrant city of Chansa, where banners of unity drop the skyline and trade halls buzzing with continental ambition, Nigeria took center stage calling for a reset in how Africa and China do business. The convention hall, full of African foreign ministers, China's top diplomats, and global observers, Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Tugar emphasized that the future of this cooperation must be built on mutual prosperity. He called for concrete policies that ensure more production happens on African soil and not just in theory, but in practice.
Of course, critical minerals and mining, we want to see more domestication of the processes, the refining. We want to see a domestication of value addition on the supply and value chain.
China-backed projects like the Lagos-Ibadan Railway and the Zungeru hydropower plant are not just milestones, but templates for how development should be measured by the value left behind, not just the infrastructure built.
Critical minerals, agriculture, these are all areas that we, of course, there are commercial agreements and private sector deals that are going on to do with satellite and satellite technology. Of course, AI is another area that we're negotiating on. We want to see more benefits. We don't want to miss out.
Nigeria's message wasn't delivered in isolation. As in the earlier official opening of FOCAC meeting, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi held a series of sideline consultations with African delegates, including Nigeria.
China will continue to deepen trust, enhance development cooperation, and support Africa's path to modernization through industrial partnerships, digital trade, and sustainable infrastructure.
These high-level diplomatic talks between the Chinese minister and African foreign ministers focused on not just the pledges made, but how to turn them into tangible results, especially ahead of the next FOCAC summit in 2026. Meanwhile, at the parallel China-Africa Economic and Trade Expo, deals were signed, partnerships were announced, and African countries, including Nigeria, showcased investment opportunities in sectors ranging from agriculture to technology and renewable energy. For Nigeria, however, the takeaway from Chansa is clear. Africa no longer seeks aid, but equitable opportunity. And as conversations shift from development dependency to value-driven diplomacy, Nigeria is demanding a seat, not just at the table, but in the factory, on the data grid, and across the supply chain. The China-Africa partnership is one that keeps opening up for more concrete collaboration, which is built on trust, on the shared future under the Belt and Road Initiative. From Chansa, Hunan Province, Patricia Esamiluba reporting.
Thank you, Patricia. Turn our attention back home. On politics, stakeholders of All Progressives Congress from Zone 1 in Kaduna State have expressed their support for President Bola Tinubu, emphasizing that they have never had it better than under his current leadership. The endorsement came during a meeting where a motion was moved by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, calling for the continuation of President Tinubu's administration. Let's hear more from Mohammed Umar Ajingi.
APC stakeholders from Zone 1 gathered to speak with one voice, from former governors to serving ministers, lawmakers, commissioners and party chieftains. The message was loud and clear. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Basani and Abbas will continue beyond 2027.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
For Speaker Tajuddin Abbas, it's about results, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has delivered. He says only Zone 1 in Kaduna State has over 50 billion projects ongoing.
The people of Kaduna State Zone 1 have agreed unconditionally to endorse President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
From house-to-house campaigns to zonal strategy meetings, speaker after speaker emphasized the need for unity as the bedrock of APC's continued success across the country. In a unanimous voice vote, the meeting closed with a resounding endorsement of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Governor Ubasani, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, all officially adopted as APC's sole candidates for 2027 election. In Kaduna, I'm Muhammad Umar Ajingi, NTA News.
Next will be Sports Update.
After a keenly contested match at the Samson Siasia Stadium for the Prosperity Cup final, Eternal Grace Ministry FC of Yanagwa has emerged champions of the 2025 Prosperity Cup tournament after beating Advanced Dreams FA to penalties, as Afini ladies were crowned champions in the female category, defeating Ezuoha Soccer Academy 5-3 on penalties.
We will continue to invest on the youth via sports.
We just want to appreciate His Excellency Senator Dohediri for this great work he's doing. He has been engaging the youth yearly, and this has been one of activities that has kept us busy as youth in this state.
Meanwhile, Paris Saint-Germain achieved a commanding 4-0 victory against fellow European rivals Atletico Madrid at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena on Sunday, marking a successful start to their Club World Cup campaign. PSG is set to return to the Rose Bowl on Thursday to face the Brazilian team Botafogo, while Atletico will head to Seattle to compete against MLS side Seattle Sounders. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich kicked off their Club World Cup journey with an impressive 10-0 win over Auckland City on Sunday, with Jamal Musiala making a significant comeback from injury by scoring a brilliant hat-trick in the second half. Auckland City, the 13th-time OFC Champions League winners, will play against Benfica on Friday, while Bayern will take on Argentine powerhouses Boca Juniors on the same day in Group C actions. In tennis, German qualifier Tatjana Maria concluded a remarkable week in London by defeating American 8th seed Amanda Anisimova 6-3, 6-4 on Sunday, becoming the first woman to win a title at Queen's Club in over 50 years. With sports updates, Ijoma Pitawante, NTA News.
And that concludes Panorama. Thank you for your time. I'm Ruth Aguilera.